My wife has always wanted a little baby girl. We had a boy. I was like, okay, not a big deal. We can try again maybe in a year, and hopefully this time we can get a daughter. I thought my wife was happy about it, until I learned something very shocking to me. My wife was trying to turn our baby boy into a girl. Yes, you heard right. My wife wants to transition our 5-year-old son to become a girl. She's been slowly brainwashing him since birth. Let me give you some details on what life was like before this whole thing started. My wife Mary, female 30, and me, 32 male, got married 6 years ago when she was 24 and I was 26. She's an only child and she always wanted a little sister, and used to have a long talk with me about having a daughter and how it was her dream. I was happy for her and also wanted her to have a daughter to be happy. But in the end, little Joe was born and, well, everyone was happy. Or so I thought. She seemed bright and excited for this new chapter in our life. She pampered the little boy, cared for him, showed him off, everything. He and I played together and we had fun as a family. It was all nice, and she told me as long as Joe was healthy, she was happy, and joked that we can have a girl next time. And she stopped talking about wanting a daughter and focused on Joe's well-being. But I started to see little things that just seemed off. One day, Joe was playing around as usual, and he somehow got into Mary's makeup box. Thinking it was fine, she let him play with it, and I came home to find Joe in full-on makeup. She said he wanted it, but how could a baby, who can't even speak, ask for such a thing? He seemed okay with it and was playful, but I immediately washed his face off and put some oil on, and we let him go to rest. When he went to bed, I went to question my wife further, and all she had to say for herself is that Joe put lipstick on and he liked it. So she gave him a makeover. I was mad out of my mind, but I bared with her and took it as one of the things that just happened once. As long as Joe was okay and didn't seem hurt, whatever. The next few months, nothing really happened, and I went back to work after my paternity leave. Mary isn't employed, so she looks after Joe full-time. The next incident happened when Joe was about 6 months of age. I came home and went to check up on him. He was asleep in his cot, and the problem was he was wearing girl clothing. Now, look, I'm not a bigot, but the clothes clearly said for girls. They had frills. They were pink. I asked my wife why he was wearing that, to which she replied, "Oh, he grabbed them while we were walking through the aisle." Now, I know the store we go to has different sections for boys and girls, even for babies. So I brushed it off. Maybe she was buying something for herself there and Joe saw it. I didn't want to argue and remembered going to sleep that night angry. I have this little journal. I write in it to track productivity, and if I look back on it, I was not in a good mood. The next day, I bought Joe similar clothes for boys and gave it to her. She argued with me for some reason, which put my suspicions high. So we went to Joe and put both clothes in front of him. By this time, he could crawl short distances, and we watched as he walked to the clothing. The clothing that I've bought, because they had dinosaurs printed on them, and I knew he loves dinosaurs. My wife tried to argue that I cheated by using said dinosaurs, but I've proved my point and, well, took the girl clothing to a closed donation box the next day. Now, you might be wondering why I'm so obsessed with my son's clothing. I don't like the idea of him wearing girls' clothes. He simply should not, and that's just how I think. At this point, I didn't even know what was coming. If I had, I would have done something much more drastic. Thinking back on it, it hurts me to this day. One day, when Joe was maybe 2.5 or so, I came home after a long day's work. The door's quiet, so it doesn't make much noise, and upstairs you can hear something. So I decided to sneak upstairs and surprise my wife with a treat that I bought from the bakery. I walked upstairs slowly and heard these words, and they won't leave my head to this day. "Jody, you're a girl, not a boy." I peered through the door of my bedroom, and my wife was sitting with Joe. They were playing some hand-clapping game, and Joe was wearing a dress, and she was calling him Jody, I walked back downstairs and pretended to enter the house again. This time I walked up clearly announcing that I was home. "Honey, I'm home." As I got to the bedroom, Joe was wearing normal clothes again. This time I was sure Mary was hiding something from me. I was unable to think of what to do, and my wife, who I've loved for years, is doing something like convincing our son he's a girl, all behind my back. I was upset and just went to the living room to try to process my thoughts. In the end, I came up with a plan, and I bought some security cameras, put them up around the house while my wife was out. I also questioned Joe, as he could talk a bit now. I didn't want to confuse him even more, so I just asked him if he was a boy or girl. And his answer was the heartbreaking one. He said Joe is a boy, Mama says Joe is a girl. I recorded it. Yep, I saved it, because I was preparing for the worst case scenario. I told Joe he was right, because that was all I could do. I'd lost control in my own house. My wife, she was dressing up my son as a girl and telling him that he's a girl. I just didn't know what to do at this point other than try to stop her. I tried speaking to my lawyer about it, and he advised me to try to collect as much evidence or info that there is, and Mary's choice, and, well, not Joe's. He said many fathers lose their children if this goes to court, telling me a bunch of stories that were like mine. At this point, I didn't want to confront my wife, but when I heard that, my heart absolutely dropped. I didn't want to lose Joe, so I had to talk with my wife. Well, we argued for a bit, and she denied that she dressed Joe up like that after some more arguing, and at the end of our talk, she apologized. She said that she loved me, and that she's just not been feeling great, which I realize now was absolute baloney. She said she decided to play with Joe, and he wanted a dress. He wanted to wear it, so she let him. She also said she uses Jody as a nickname. I asked her where she got the dress, and she said she sewed it for Joe, because he asked. Joe is shorter than Jody, how's that a nickname? I was stunned to say the least, but there was no real response to that other than shouting at her more, so I accepted it when she said she would not let it do it again. And for a year, everything was fine, or at least I thought, and I thought the problem was gone, and you guessed it, wrong. At this point in time, I was at a business trip in Dubai. It was 6 months long, and you could say this one trip was the catalyst of what comes next. I left for the trip, said bye to Joe and Mary, and made sure to FaceTime them every single night. I thought everything was still going well, until I came home unannounced. The second that I came home, I saw Joe wearing a dress and lipstick and full makeup. He absolutely looked like a drag queen. At that moment, I felt betrayed. I've worked hard for my family. I went to a foreign country, only to come back to my wife's shenanigans. I lost it at that moment. I asked Joe, "What are you wearing?" And he said that my wife had put it on him. Of course, the kid doesn't even understand what's going on. For some context, Joe is homeschooled. So, I argue with Mary, and this time she did not deny anything. She told me that Joe is a girl, and that he chose to wear that. He's called Jody, by the way, not Joe, and that I'm being a transphobe. Well, I shot back at her. I said that Joe cannot be a trans, he's a child. The breaking point was when my son replied, innocently, "What's transphobic?" I just left, and I didn't even get my car keys and had little to no cash, just a rental car from the airport. I drove to a quiet area in the woods I used to go to when I was younger and just cried my eyes out. My son had been taken from me. My wife was insulting me, and I could not do anything about it. I slept in those woods, and the next day I went home early in the morning. I used a spare key to get in. I took my car keys and card and left the house. I was an absolute mess. There were flags on the wall, the pride flags and other colorful flags. I looked in Joe's closet, and it was full to the brim with girl clothing. There was even a little makeup box on his little table. I truly lost my wife, and it was clearly she was trying to turn Joe into a trans. I was on a mission now. There was no one trying to talk to Mary, and I tried to when I was leaving, but she threatened to pepper spray me. Mary has no money. I schedule enough to be sent for groceries and utilities, that's all. She doesn't work, so I thought I had the upper hand. I work as an investment banker, and I make a lot. On top of my own investments, I consider myself quite wealthy. I called my lawyer, and for the next year or so, we spent it collecting evidence against my wife. Sitting through the camera footage was exhausting, but I did it for my son. At one point, his school, which my wife enrolled him in for God knows why, called me and asked for my permission for Mary to change Joe's name on the school system. I asked them to not change it, make sure Joe comes to school in a boy's uniform. I had to go in and sign a form to not consent to the change. At least the school had some common sense. My lawyer is very confident in himself, and I'm going to court with her soon. It was Joe's birthday a few weeks ago. He's now 5. I want to at least see him on his 6th birthday party, so before I go to court, I just have to get a little advice. Am I the a-hole, or is my wife in the wrong? Update number 1. Holy moly, a lot of people responded. I was kind of late to this. Court proceedings took over 4 months. I'm sorry for that. I thought this would just be buried, but here I am, thanking you all for your replies. The comment section was a mess, so much arguing. I guess this is a touchy subject. I'm happy most of you sided with me, though. Some of you told me that I was overreacting, and a lot of leftists insulted me, calling me a misogynistic and a terrible parent. One comment said, "Your child needs to be in a safe environment to express her needs, you sick transphobe. Jody is clearly trans," with a spew of taunting emojis at the end. So I can see where some of these ideas my wife has come from, and I've heard some people comment that this has happened to them, and they've already lost their children or are fighting for them. A few comments made me feel a little grateful. I tried to read all of them and realized this is a large problem. That I first realized some of the fathers in the comment sections have given up of their own children. The overwhelming majority of you guys said I was right though, which does make me feel a bit better. A comment I liked was by user 402017. Well, he says this: "I still can't understand how a 5-year-old boy can make decisions for himself to be called a girl. The world is sick." This is exactly right. Some people have also warned me that Joe can lose his private parts if my wife decides to do surgery, which I didn't even know would happen. So thank you for telling me. Also, guys, I have bad news. We went to court and went through all the motions, and in the end, all the evidence I've collected, all of it was using the cameras I set up in the house. Yes, the same house I paid for and own. Well, guess what? I wasn't allowed by the judge, and they said the way it was collected was illegal, which I don't even understand. Also, my wife and I don't understand why she's always having to do these things. She brought Joe completely dressed up in a dress and makeup to the courtroom, and he waved to me, but I couldn't bring myself to wave back. We had nothing else to show as evidence, and Joe was not allowed to speak. So, of course, my wife ended up winning custody of my son. The court slapped me with a restraining order on my wife and son, so at this point I'm officially removed from everything to do with Joe. I can't pick him up from school, I can't meet him, I can't do anything, and I'm going to have to go to court again just to settle the divorce. I'll probably lose half of my assets, but yeah, life sucks, what can you do? That's it for the update, guys. I'll keep you updated if anything happens. I have some ideas of what to do, but my lawyers said I shouldn't post them here. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. We still have 3 more updates to hop into, and if you think this story was over, oh boy, sit down because it's not. If you're new to the channel, hello and welcome. I read stories every single day, stories similar to this one and other topics. If you're into that, smash that subscribe button so you never miss a video, and let's jump into the next update. Second update for you guys, again, a huge thanks to everyone. I didn't even realize people cared for this situation. So, in my last update, I said I did not have custody of Joe anymore. Some of the ruthless users in the comments were thrilled. one of them saying exactly this, and I quote, "Huh, you got what was coming to you? This is why you don't mess with the LGBTQ community, you sicko. Thank goodness, Jody's safe now, she can be at peace." Well, this is just one of the many sick comments I had to read. I really don't understand you guys. The fact that you think this situation is funny is one thing, but Joe is being forced into this, and it's very clear. Joe's 5 years of age. He can't drink alcohol. He can't go to prison. He can't get married or use drugs because he's a child. He can't make choices that will have long-term effects on his life. So why does this not apply to trans children? This whole thing probably will scar him for life. I just hope you sickos understand what it means for a child to be trans. Thank you to the guys that replied to the negative comments and all the rest of the support. Some of you guys asked why the pictures were illegal, and I don't really understand the legal nonsense, but in short, if my wife did not consent about the camera, we weren't on speaking terms. I can't use the video as proof or anything. Her public defense lawyer knew his stuff. He caught us off guard when he brought up the evidence was illegal. It doesn't really matter anymore, though. Me and Mary got divorced, and with divorce, there's always the dreaded fees that I must pay. It was about half my money. The house, yeah, also goes to her. Oh yeah, that's not the end of it. I have to pay child support, of course. I still don't even understand how this is real. Get this. I have to pay $20,000 a month for child support, which is absolutely absurd. Anyone with common sense can tell that a child doesn't need that much. She tried to make it seem reasonable by saying Joe needs special care for his needs, acting as if the money won't go straight to her pockets. For reference, I used to send Mary $4,000 for living costs, and that was on the generous side. I'm dead broke now. All the court fees have made me lose at least $2 million. All to Mary and the rest to a lawyer. I only have enough for my basic living cost, and that's eating into my savings. I don't know what to do at this point. I can't go to court to appeal again or see Joe, so I'm stuck. Oh yeah, that's not it. My boss also found out about this whole thing a week ago after the court hearing. He pulled me to the side. He didn't really care about the situation, but he said that my investments made during that time all flunked. He said I've lost the company $100,000 plus due to rookie mistakes, as he says it. I see what I did now was wrong, but it's just too late. My boss said that he would have to let me go because he can't just overlook such a great loss. I tried to explain, but it was an error due to my mental state at the time. He didn't want to hear it. I had to pack my stuff up and leave the same day. Life just doesn't feel the same. I feel like everything's been stripped from me. My life is meaningless, I guess you could say. I might as well just end it, if it gets any worse. Anyways, thanks. I think this is probably my last update. See ya. Update number 3. Hey there, guys. I know I went under the radar for a bit and was just sorting through things. Thank you for all the support. I didn't even think I would come back to update this, and a lot of kind people have been messaging me, encouraging me to keep going, and there were a lot of people worried for my well-being. Thanks. I was thinking of actually hurting myself, but things have turned for the better. Someone in the comment below my second update made a GoFundMe for my court fees and living cost. I can't believe it's gone viral. It's at 50,000, which is crazy. I can't believe so many of you donated to some random guy on the internet. I didn't believe that I'd get a second chance, but you guys really did seem to make it possible. Well, something else that's been going on, people watch the news. You might have already seen, but I was on the news. Multiple, in fact. They reached out to me because this post has been trending. The news outlets donated some money to the GoFundMe as well, so that was a great help. A bunch of people also donated from seeing it on the news. To be honest, being on TV was kind of hard. I could see my son again, and we did have some time together, which was accepted by the court. My life has actually been so hectic recently. I still haven't got my job back, and I don't think I'll be going back anytime soon. But I'm happy at the moment. It feels as if I've been blessed. I've got money now and I can see the light, if you get what I mean. While I was reading all my private messages from you guys, there was one from a lawyer. He said he was willing to defend me for little to nothing, and he said he could get my son back. I agreed, of course. I mean, obviously I was skeptical, but meeting the guy and, well, I think he really is the real deal. We talked a lot, and in the end, he told me he can find a way to use the video as proof, that we've been going through it. He also believes my old lawyer was just trying to use me for my money. He said that sometimes lawyers team up and drag the court orders on and on to try to get money from the defendants. My wife wasn't paying, so I was the one who lost out big time. Well, now I know I fired the guy, and these new guys are way better. My ex-wife has been tormenting me. She's rude when she reminds me to send the alimony. She sends me pictures of Joe wearing his girl clothes. And she uses these weird, infuriating captions like, "Slay, queen, slay." It makes me so mad she's turned him into a drag queen, and I can't do anything about it right now. But the second I get Joe back, I'm going to fix everything, hopefully. Also, surprisingly, a lot of the haters went back on their way when the news stories came out. I'm glad that they're learning at least, and a lot apologized and some said some kind words. At last, thank you to everyone. I will make sure to update as soon as I can on how the hearing goes. Update number 4. Probably the last update, but big news. After the last update, my lawyer, he had to read through it, and he picked out something huge. You know how I said my wife sent me an irritating message taunting me? Well, my lawyer, he's a genius. I didn't even think much of them, just wanted to update you guys on her behavior. He was telling me that they count as evidence that she was using Joe against me. It was a bunch of legal jargon. But the basic message was that one parent can't use the child against the other to make one parent angry. It worked! And well, the court wasn't very happy about Mart's actions, and that coupled with the evidence we had, which I can now tell you guys in a bit more detail. In short, we had multiple recordings of Mary telling Joe he's a girl, and another recording of Joe crying when he was wearing the clothes and other stuff. The whole court hearing went super smoothly and it ended in my favor. While we were there, Mary had a new lawyer, and the guy kept on making mistake after mistake, and my guy, my crazy genius of a lawyer, kept on correcting him. It was hilarious to see. His face was turning red and she looked like a tomato when she walked out. She cried these crocodile tears, saying that she did nothing wrong, shouting at the judge, which just made him even more mad. He didn't show it, but who would not be mad at someone shouting at them? I think they even recorded her leaving and put it on the news journalist. Man, they're ruthless. Well, I guess it's good for Joe and she got what she deserved. After that hearing, there was some more to settle, some alimony, which she was not obligated to do anymore because Joe was in my custody now. So I don't have to pay her $20,000 a month anymore. And the rest of the results from that hearing were that I get my house back, and she needs to move out immediately. It wasn't nice seeing the person I used to love become this evil, demonic piece of crap. But it's for my son, and even if it seems cruel, she deserves every single second of it. She cried again and was escorted after trying to get close to me. After all that, Joe and I were living together again. After being separated for nearly 3 years, I could finally hug him again, play with him. I dropped him out of school for the time being because I want to focus on his mental health. The house still has these flags and other things up, and I made Mary take down every single one. I'm not against the LGBTQ, but I don't want it in my house. It's an eyesore when it covers a whole wall and the bed sheets are the same thing. I mean, I wouldn't want any flag in my house, to be that frank. So I better not hear anyone say I'm homophobic or other stuff. My son now has room back after repainting it and getting him a new wallpaper that he chose. It was looking great again. He chose a dinosaur wallpaper and it looks pretty good if I do say so myself. The house was becoming more normal. Mary was paying for all the fixes that we were making as she changed it in the first place. Another thing we changed was his closet. He had no boy clothes at all other than his school uniform, so we had to go shopping for a whole bunch of new clothes. It was kind of hard because I haven't been shopping in a while. Everything changes in the place, it's so annoying. We found everything we needed thanks to the lovely lady at the store. We'd fixed the house up and his clothes, and we had a break from school. Now, time to talk about something a bit more serious. Due to the nature of what Joe went through, he's going to go to therapy for a while. I don't know how long, but until he's confident about his gender and body. Hopefully, it'll be a smooth sailing, and he can go back to school ASAP. While he's not going to school, he'll have a tutor to teach him science, math, English, history. Those are the only important subjects he needs to know. I also, after sorting out Joe's things, sued Mary. Joe was doing better from what I could tell, and Mary still had half my money because it was taking a while. But eventually I sued her and got back only $1.5 million, which is so much less than what I gave her. Turns out she, for some reason, spent $500,000 on God knows what. I really don't care as long as I got most of it back, as well as the repair fees, and got the heck out of there. She tried to talk to me on the way out, but I walked past and a security guard blocked her from following me. It's sad that it came to this, but it's just the reality. She's messed up, and now she's going to suffer. She has no job, and whatever is left of the $500,000 she spent, if she's smart, she'll invest the rest and get a job. Then she can retire in a few years, but she won't. As I said, this is probably the last update, so I just want to properly thank you guys. I couldn't have done it without your support, and the courage you gave me, and the money you raised. My genius lawyer also came to the rescue. He's been a great friend and partner. I just hope you all the best. Goodbye. Alright guys, so the comment section of this one is absolutely insane. It has people arguing left and right, left and right. Basically, I just have one question for you guys. Do you think what the wife did, going behind OP's back, was okay? Let me know in the comment section. Go ahead and drop your thoughts and opinions of this story down below and let's talk about it. Guys, my name's Mr. Reddito if you're new to the channel. I have stories every single day, which are similar dramatic topics, bridezillas, inheritance, am I the a-holes, you name it, we probably cover it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's content, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.